In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It is written that the beginning was an infinite void without shape or form. The greatest or most accurate depiction of this loss of shape, void, or form that we can personify here is with water. And it was in this void that other words were uttered. The first being a command, a manifestation, the first manifestation. It's written that God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. Soon there were other manifestations, one of them being the earth to separate the waters. And because we have and share all of the elements of the earth, we too can call ourselves earth. Greetings, and welcome to a very, very special edition of yet another step into the kingdom, another brick onto the temple. This is the build. Today, I say, is a very special day, despite the fact that because we are people of evidence basis, do not necessarily laud holidays, holy days in the way others laud them. It is paramount to the understanding of all those who are witnessing what is happening here and now that we do not see a lack of work as a means of giving reverence. The work indeed must still be done, and we continue to do the work. We celebrate within the work. The question of working on Sabbath, Shabbat, things of that nature, to answer if what we were doing is in violation of any concrete Sabbath, I say this to you. The true Sabbath, the true seventh day is Saturday or Friday night, on a day that I do not work and nor do any works. However, being that this is a day of work, I choose that work to be a divine work. That said, I have sent an invite to my brother Eli, and I expect him momentarily. What I will say is, as a disclaimer, that I cannot dare to say in the same vein as Brother Eli that the words that are expressed here are merely from our own experiences, our own knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. It does not contend with other knowledges, other wisdoms, and other understandings. However, let it not be misunderstood that our understanding has been tested and proven. And so, if anyone has any opinions that are counteractive or counterintuitive of our opinions or theories, because these are theories, then please show your evidence. We would welcome it here solemnly. I know it was the blood. I want you to think about that phrase for a moment. Contemplate that very phrase. I know it was the blood. When people hear this phrase, they accompany it with of Jesus because they know of the song, I know it was the blood. I know it was the blood. I know it was the blood of Jesus. Yes. Okay. However, most of the people who are singing this song, they're only thinking about the sacrificial blood of the sacrificial lamb. They're thinking about the death that has been given to them as the grandest sacrifice so that they may live. There is nothing inherently wrong with that. No. However, we'll dig much deeper and build much taller, a better foundation, and even vaulted ceilings about your blood. To begin, I would love to start with sharing my screen if I can. If I can try to figure out how to do that. To show you what I mean exactly in regards to knowing that it was indeed the blood, our blood. Give me just a moment. And while I'm looking this up, opening it in new tabs, I want you to pay close attention to the new ornate setting that I have placed here in this temple and on this temple. These are Kemetic symbols, Phoenician writings. This is of a different color other than the traditional white that we bring into the temple because this is indeed a special day. This is Christ Mass. I say it in that way because any and every king of almost every religion has a certain solstice where the sun refuses to shine for a couple of days, and then it shines brightly on that third day. Sun rising, sun Ra, the morning star, bright morning star, all of these different, these algorithms of the allegory, they share the exact same day, this day, Christ Mass. I got one more page that I'm going to open into a new tab, and then I'm going to share some things with you. Okay. Now, we're going to do this in a question answer format. Much like Farad's 120 degrees has been brought to the attention of scholars. We have already gone over the organs from the smallest to the largest, from the kidneys to the heart, to the lungs, to the brain, to the liver, to the skin, as far as organs. However, there is a certain transport, which without such transport, none of these will be able to exist, and that is blood. It is the way we get our oxygen. It is the way that we get all of our nutrients that goes through all of our certain systems. These veins or vessels transport certain energy and information throughout our bodies so that we can continue our process of living. The following will be brought to you in a question answer format. I hope that you enjoy what's going to be brought here today. Question. The organs of excretion are as what follows. The way we get rid of waste is through excretion in order for the body to maintain homeostasis by means of including waste byproducts that are metabolized some of them being toxic and other non-useful materials that are used up and broken down into different components. And some of the specific waste products that must be excreted from the body include carbon dioxide from cellular respiration, ammonia and urea from protein catabolism, and uric acid from nucleic acid catabolism. Their excretory organs, the skin, the liver, the large intestines, lungs, kidneys, are all part of the excretory system. This system is literally the difference between a person being morbidly obese, overweight, in the proper form and shape according to their height and weight, underweight, so forth and so on. We have come to the knowledge and understanding that it has nothing to do with exercise. It has everything to do with excretion. For a person could not ever set foot in a gym at all, but if they have the proper process of elimination from their bodies, they will retain their shape and weight. Question: how fast does the blood travel? Answer: blood travels throughout our entire bodies in the course of 45 seconds. This is the entire human body. Okay. Question: how long are the veins and vessels of the human body? Answer: 60,000 miles. Question: how wide is the perimeter around the equator of the Earth? Answer: 30,000 miles. So then, in 45 seconds, our blood vessels, our blood travels through our body. In 45 seconds, it's the equivalent of it going on one straight line across the entire planet that we are existing on. Twice. So our blood travels that fast, 45 seconds, 660,000 miles. 45 seconds. To divide that by 2, which means to see how much our blood could move across the entire planet if our veins were all in one plane. 27.5 seconds. That is 45 divided by 2. Question: the speed of sound, if it were to travel across the world, how long would it take? Most of you already know the answer, relatively speaking, because you've flown in planes. You have flown and taken serious means of travel that would allow a person to go at very, very fast speeds across the country. I mean, not the world, and yet it still takes hours. Yet our blood travels through that perimeter in 27.5 seconds. Brother Eli and I witnessed a video in which an experiment was conducted on the Naval Air Force base with a sled that was calculated at over 6,000 miles per hour. It is a video that you can find easily on social media. They played the video at its normal speed, then at half of its speed, then at a quarter of its speed, and it could only be seen at a quarter of its speed. The interesting thing is there was a humming that came from the vehicle because it was going so fast. This is one of the indications of it breaking speeds of sound. We have vibrations in our body. These vibrations travel in certain sounds and certain tones, which are alignment with the chakras, which when you hear certain sounds, it triggers certain effects with the same vibration of the body. And clearing the body in regards to certain types of medicine that is done audibly. These are called audible cleanses. With certain singing bowls is what they're called. And place the ring around the singing bowl, creating a vibration that triggers a sense of the body to cleanse it. Our blood does this. Us, regular human beings, have this happen with our blood. Close to 100 gallons of this every day. So then the question has to be asked, if this can be done so miraculously, then this can be repaired so beautifully, then why is it that people die of disease? It is simply because we continue to put the same obstacles in front of the speed of sound breaking speeds of our blood. We place rocks and walls and obstacles in front of it. And what are those rocks and walls and obstacles? The things that we believe we need, but are only wants. I will explain. When I speak of the things that we need versus what we want, a person who becomes addicted to nicotine will say that they need a cigarette. A person who says that they are addicted to any type of drug, it becomes a need aside from a want. That need is not a need at all. It is not needed at all. Brother Eli has been on a eating regimen of only raw vegetables, mostly cruciferous, being cauliflower, I believe broccoli, certain greens, most recently carrots, and small, minuscule amounts, literally drops of sauces. And in these 30 days, he has shown immensely how quickly the body wants to repair itself, how energy, the idea of being tired is a farce, and the idea of being sick and staying sick and dying of being sick is a hoax. The body wants to repair itself from any 3 to 30-day period, of which we will not go into intricate detail because of the time that we have is precious. And there's a lot to be discussed here. Yet, it does this all on its own, if we but allow it to do so. Yet, we do not. We give it these alleged needs instead of wants, and call them needs. Smoking, drinking, meals that are of the with the ill intent of believing that they are nutritious to us. However, they are not necessary. The necessities, the bare necessities, are exactly that. The issue is that we are taught that these bare necessities puts us in a state of lack. But what ends up happening is our body develops around what we place within it. It encapsulates it, it completely absorbs it. And in so doing, it wants less. It needs less in order to survive. It actually thrives off of less to the point where there is no more of a desire, which means you are satisfied and are not in lack. I can only say so much. I can only say so much about my brother's account, and no one can say it greater than him. I'm glad that you have been with us this far. I see that Brother Eli is preparing. He is getting into the stream, and we welcome him warmly. Brother Eli, all of the prerequisites have been done. We can go right into the meat of the discussion.
Well, greetings. My hand is numb because I was, I take that. Well, let me just do a little 5 minute. So I'm right there on the side over there. I'm like, wait a minute. And I looked. I was like, wait a minute. So my arm was still numb, and Lord have mercy, because I normally even hear the text on the phone, and I didn't hear the text. So we're here. Thank you, brother. I just want to continue to listen so I can catch up, and it looks amazing. The background looks amazing. Thank you, brother. But please continue, please. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we did not go in depth into talking about the blood or the heart. But what we did speak of is the question answer format, which I place much like how uh, Farad had taught in the 120 question answer format in regards to the blood. The initial question being, how fast does blood travel through our body? Answer, 60,000 miles. That goes in a 45-second count. Then the next question was, if that be so, in relativity, what is the equator's perimeter in miles? Answer is 30,000 miles. So then, based upon that math, the next question was that our blood, is it true that it does not go through the entire planet twice in 45 seconds? Answer, yes, it is true. Question, if we are to divide that by 2, would that calculate to going across the entire globe in 27.5 seconds? Answer is yes. So then, in relative speaking, people who fly in airplanes that take hours to get from point A to point B, we have circled literally the globe every 27.5 seconds. If you see yourself as Earth and the encompassment of all of the elements in Earth. So then, if this be true, this actual fact be true, then please explain how people die of dis-ease. Answer, it is not because of blood or lack of nutrients within it. It is because of the obstacles that we place upon it. It is because of the wants that we call needs. When we need is not addiction, it's not any disruption for the body to recover itself. I alluded to your raw vegetable eating regimen and how successful it has been in the last 30 days. And right when you got on, I said that there's no way that I could explain it as better as you could, brother. in regards to what you've been feeling in your body.
Thank you, brother. And I am entering, let me see, tomorrow I'll be entering to my fourth week. Yes, sir. I do remember describing how I was feeling and recognizing how it's axiomatic that we suffer because of desires, not necessarily a requirement, because what is required is not much. And going into my fourth week, and of course I'm fasting now, I have thought less about food. It's like almost something that doesn't even exist when it comes to my consciousness. I'm going to say it's not easy because, me personally, I've been trying fasting for quite some time and I'm building my way up. But the only thing about it is when you care about people, some of us, especially men, we are problem solvers. We look for solutions. We're not judging the person, but as men, we just look for solutions. And doing a vegetarianism, no, the first thing was getting off of pork. I remember I went to a farm and you had a lot of Africans. This was in the 90s in Ohio, and they was killing their own goats. I remember some Africans, they burnt the goat. I think burnt the small hairs on the goat and then, shaved it. I remember even when they slit one goat's throat, I remember feeling the power, like a poof. It was like a power, a force. And it's wild because when I delivered one of the gentlemen, it was another force that came out, and it was kind of weird. But um, so I remember eating smoked goat, and I was like, man, people can get off of pork. Just man, it's you try to find a replacement, and then I went on to the other levels of things. So it's just a journey, um, trying to find solutions, and also when I had suffered from anxiety attacks when I was 36. I remember going to the emergency room because those who have experienced anxiety attacks, your heart and stuff going crazy. My first experience was like 3 in the morning on my birthday. I was born 3:25 a.m. So, and it was crazy because I had some coffee that night at work. So when I went to the emergency room, I took the cup of coffee with me because I thought someone poisoned me. So I'm up here going to the emergency room with fast heart palpitations and all that kind of stuff because I thought if they need to see if somebody poisoned me, I got the cup right here. And then they discovered I didn't have insurance and I got put out. So here I am, 4+ in the morning in a parking lot, um, by myself, which forced me to recognize that my health is in my own hands and no one's going to be there because I always watch even homeless people receive services from the emergency room. And here I am, was put out while having these anxiety attacks. So I kind of dove into health from that perspective, also trying to solve problems when most of us are dealing with problems. And yes, sir, brother, that this I just hope one day that we can really, all of us, can really know the love of God, like you spoke about, probably with the veins and the limbs and other parts of the body and even the mind. This is all love. It is all love. And it's a sacrifice because another thing I remember just the other day, it's like when I go to Walmart, I was going to sneeze. When I would go to Walmart, I literally just walk through. I don't purchase anything. And in the beginning, it's kind of a level of suffering because you want to be like everyone else. You want to go buy something. You want to just, it's kind of crazy because I remember when I was younger, I couldn't get that Arby's Racks roast beef. No, yeah, Arby's Racks roast beef and other stuff. And here I am. I can afford that stuff now, and I still can't eat it. So it's not something that is fun because a lot of times people call us snooty, vain, and all that kind of stuff when we're not, when it's all suffering. But I believe you have to choose the level of suffering that you want to go through. And another thing that I look at is when I was younger, they had people on crack, Brother Michael. And I started doing the math. I'm like, wait a minute. I cannot imagine having the children and the grandchildren of crack babies take care of me in senior citizen facilities. So that was another driving force because I worked in senior citizen facilities, and even my own mother was murdered in a senior citizen facility. So these are the driving forces that I use to keep myself on this particular path. And another one, instead of calling my this suit a body, I call it a temple. So we figure out what to do to keep us on these dean, as some would say. But like I said, now I'm going into my fourth week. Is kind of painful. I'm very honest because I'm really in the emotion of the thoughts of your question, of your statement right now, and I'm feeling it. And I don't see the relevance of a lot of things that we do and commit to, especially those who are not, those things that we're not meant to exist in, like all the meals and the restaurants and all these things. It was not, the idea was okay. It was a beautiful thing. And I think it's an honorable thing to have some experiences, but it is being damaging for our enjoyment because we cannot enjoy life anymore because we're dealing with so many levels of pain and suffering and illnesses and like they said, diseases. So I don't think we can escape suffering. I think our how we interpret the suffering is well. And I interpret my suffering because I would love to eat me some rotisserie chicken. I remember going to Publix and getting the entire rotisserie chicken and eating it. That was my heaven, and some Hawaiian punch, and I remember Pizza Hut chicken wings, and so I was in love with being a meathead. That's my family. I remember my father used to cook some greens, a big old pot of greens, brother, and he had some smoked pork something in there. It was so good. It would fell off the bones. And he'll come home and be no meat in there, just be the greens. So when people say, "Oh, I can't stop doing this," because I love eating meat. Now I have to confess, I was a normal animal eating meathead, and I became a vegetarian meathead, and held a lot of water in my body because a lot of those vegetarian meats are high in salt and they're not easy to digest. And I was basically having the same experiences as if I was eating the other things, Brother Michael. And that's why I discover that is the elimination process is how easily you can eliminate what you consume. And it's all about the elimination and what is stored and how we have these blockages. So it's not even all the other stuff because the brother you spoke about said eat one meal a week. And so it's about eliminating these things. And that's the problem, how the things that we eat, we we cannot eliminate them. And remember, we was talking about how blood travels at a very fast rate. So when you look at disease, like a virus, they have spikes. So if you have ever been on a water slide at a fast rate, you see yourself colliding against the side of the slides. And that is why existence made viruses with spikes. Because when they going at that fast rate, 60,000 miles in 45 seconds, they are colliding with other elements, because even the one little cell, the molecule in the cell travel rate a rate of 250 miles an hour, they collide and stick to it. So they can't eliminate. So that's health when it comes to the physical body. All it needs is to figure out how to way to shove it out, because we shoved it in, brother. That is so anything. So I'm coming to some level of a different type of understanding, because I never really thought about it this way. I didn't know, because I heard about raw veganism and all this kind of stuff. I like Sister Adama's word. She say strict vegetarian. All this fancy flowery stuff, a strict vegetarian is someone who's the vegetables, not even other stuff. And it's just, even like I said, the vegetarian meats. I remember, not to be long when I'm gonna say this last point. I remember this sister back in 2000, I think 2000, yeah, around 2009. She made fried chicken. Woo! So this fried chicken was made from this dough, and we had nutritional wheat and all that yeast in there, and you put it in the hot grease, and it bubbles up, and it looked like the dry pork skin. And I remember it was like stringy and chewy, pouring hot sauce on it with the skin and chewing it. You know, so this food evolved, but we really appreciated the memories of the things we loved when we ate dead carcass flesh. But it was not healthy. It was basically hard to digest. I remember eating and enjoying it with the tongue, but it kind of lingered in my digestive system. So all in all, it's anything that we can eliminate easily compared to other things. I think again our body will heal itself. I think Brother Michael may have spoke about how parts of the organs naturally heal at certain days, at certain rates, and stuff like that. So it's all love. But one thing we cannot do is tell God or the great architect what it should do when we can't even create anything. Thank you, brother.
I remember that dough that you speak of. And it's funny because we used to make jokes about the name of that dough. Do you remember the name of the dough, brother? It's called Seitan. And I remember very vividly Seitan, but we would say it as Satan. As vegetarians, we would say, Hail Satan. That's a joke. Yeah, we're gonna we love this. This will be our new meat. Hail Satan. But metaphysically, what we were saying was we are taking in the exact same sin that we would have to pray for remission from, just in a different form. We spoke a little bit briefly near the end of a build a couple of weeks ago when I was speaking about the definition of remission and cancer and being sick and being ill. And everyone prays for a remission in a cancer institute, but they are also repenting for a remission of their sin. One of the greatest sins The most socially acceptable sins has got to be gluttony, brother. That has got to be one of the most socially acceptable sins ever, because nobody really talks as much about what or how much they eat. They'll talk about how much a person is in the bed with any person, with another person. They'll talk about adultery. They'll talk about all fornication. They'll talk about even touching yourself. They will talk about murder. They'll talk about different ways to debate and rebut about murder. What if you're a soldier and you're killing for your homeland? All of these things. But how many times have you went to a church or a mosque and they've talked about just eating? Now, that brings me to the synagogue that I've actually attended, where they did talk a great deal to those who were calling themselves converts to that mentality of what is the right and wrong things to eat. Book of Deuteronomy speaking about the split-hoofed animals and not to partake of them. Not for any of these other metaphysical reasons, not of these great intellectual intricacies, but simply because God said, don't do it. Sin in Spanish means no. No, no. No, no, little one, don't do that. No, no. But you do it anyway. And there are punishments for rebelling of sorts. And one of those punishments, AKA rewards, is that illness, is that sickness. And when we talk about needs and wants, it's interesting how addiction manifests in the body. It starts as a want to try, a want to try more, a want to see how much more it will take before I feel the same thing that I felt when I first had this example, this experience, because you gain an immunity to it. And then it becomes a need. Children who try caffeine for the first time, would you like to try this? Would you want to try this? Advertisements back in the 80s, before social media had commercials that are only 7 seconds long, you would have commercials as long as television broadcasts or even longer, forcing all of these highly processed foods to you in all of these fabulous colors. And that would persuade the children to want this. And after a while, because the want was not met with the parent saying that it was immediate, they would change the name from they would change the vibe from a want to a need. Mom, I need this. I need this. Everyone else has this. It's on sale. It wouldn't bother you. I need this. And then it becomes a need on the inside of the body. I need this in order to get up in the morning. There are some people who will not get out of bed until they've had your first cup of coffee. There are certain people who will not get up to live out their day if they can't have that first cup of coffee, that first cigarette, their first hit of dope, their first cocaine. They have to wake and bake, all of these different things. Food is medicine. Medicine be thy food. However, there is use and abnormal use of our nutrient-dense foods. And that causes the dis-ease and addiction to, because too much of anything will accompany our demise. Too much of anything. It must be a balance somewhere. And certain things already enter into the body very well balanced. Water is very well balanced. The right type of air, breathing, is very well balanced, despite pollution, because we have systems that deal with this internally. There are people who live in certain levels of metropolis who do not experience lung cancer. There are in the same vein, the same vein, there are people on this same planet that could live in very, very beautiful wooded areas, almost looks completely secluded. A person that could have a house and their next door neighbor is a half a mile away, yet they die of terminal illness. Not because of their outside environment, but what they make into their inner ecosystem, what they place into their inner sanctum, their holiest of holies, they desecrate it. And to desecrate your temple that is running at 60,000 miles in under a minute, how many sins does that equate to being as it returns to the body? When you have things that are inside of your body that takes anywhere between 2 to 48 hours to completely digest, why should it take that long to do something that is already balanced? Because it is not. Brother Eli, we witnessed just for relativity, we witnessed a footage of a sled in a naval academy, an Air Force academy for research facility that was at 6,000 miles an hour. They played it at normal speed, they played it at half speed, they played it at a quarter speed. And when you seen it at the quarter speed, the thing that we did more than see it was hear a vibration. There was a humming that was there. There was a song that was sung. Our body is made of so many different vibrations. There is an orchestra happening inside our bodies, around the people that we share our space and time to. And that determines so much. We have proven this as human beings in multiple projects, one of which involved the forming of water crystals when spoke upon, negative comments, and loving words. Two specific different beakers of water that were presented with profane language and love language. And the zooming in of these water crystals showed that it defaced the water that was given defamation of its character. And beautiful, almost kaleidoscopic formations of supreme architecture when love was presented to the water. When we ask people if they love themselves and they say they do, and then we watch some of the things in our observance of what they do, we have to scratch our heads. We have to wonder what their definition of love is. Please, if you'd like to interject, please.
No, sir. I was just gonna look something up real quick
Mm-hmm.
in Genesis. Then I'll come back. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, when it comes to loving yourself, when it comes to finding a balance, we've come to find that it is actually much easier than most people would make it out to be, at least in theory. In practical application, that will vary. But in theory, take all foods that are not spawned from the earth itself in its season, that existed for at least 60,000 years, and you will live prosperly. You will prosper. Anything that has been genetically modified, anything that has been spliced, do away with. no matter how addicting, no matter how much you believe you need it, do away with it. Test yourself for no less than 7 days. And in those 7 days, pay attention to how much your body is eliminating toxins. The second that it gets to a certain plateau of elimination of toxins, the body will start to repair itself at a faster rate. You'll begin to have more energy than you ever think that you would ever need. And you will be able to do more in your physical days, which is exactly the point. The point is to do the work. What is the work? The building of the temple. That essentially is the ultimate work, the building of the temple, your temple. We also had talked very briefly, briefly here, but you and I, brother, we talked very extensively in regards to the mind. And Brother Eli brought forth a very, very interesting article. What is the memory capacity of the human brain? This is from scientificamerican.com/article/what is the memory capacity. I'm going to read briefly from this, and then we're going to build upon this in regards to the brain. Just a moment, because there's a specific area which I want to build upon. And here it is. The human brain consists of about 1 billion neurons. Each neuron forms about 1,000 connections to other neurons, amounting to more than 1 trillion connections. That's a T. If each neuron could only help store a single memory, running out of space would be a problem. You might have only a few gigabytes of storage space, similar to the space of an iPod or a USB flash drive. Yet, neurons combine so that each one helps with many memories at a time, exponentially increasing the brain's memory storage capacity to something closer to around 2.5 petabytes or 1 million gigabytes. For comparison, if your brain worked like a digital recorder in a television, 2.5 petabytes would be enough to hold 3 million hours of TV shows. You would have to leave the TV running continuously for more than 300 years to use up all that storage. $300 years. The television itself has not existed 300 years. Hopefully, you live in a household where the television does not stay on all day long. However,
But I like
chokes me up just thinking about it.
no. Go ahead, brother. I thought you needed 1 second. I thought
No,
you
I
needed
do. I do. 300 years. 5%. 5% of 300 years is 15 years. Okay. It is a common theory that is agreed upon that the human brain, with all of the functions the blood, the organs, everything. The highest level of human thought, the epitome of education, intelligence, and understanding of knowledge, uses up to a mere 5% of our capacity. I am talking about savants using only at capacity 5%. I find it interesting that 5% of that 300 years is 15 years. When at age 15, we are in, according to the American school system, the 9th or 10th grade, and every written work that is publicized by the Associated Press is written at a 7th grade reading level, of which you would only be 12. Those who are witnessing this right now might think of all of these numbers and say, these nerds, geeks, dweebs are using these words and these nerdy numbers in order to appear smart. It is quite the opposite. It makes us so incredibly humble as to the farce that is the human condition versus having the discipline to do the little that the great architect demands be done for you to sustain yourself for 120 years at the very least. The Bible says, in regards to our promises only two things: 70 years and daily bread. Give us this day our daily bread. 70 years. Which means, quite simply, though we do not live on bread alone, but the love of God. And God's love is showing itself in all of our veins. That travels faster than most people could ever imagine. And a mind that is greater than any computer that we would ever engineer. The amount of grace of a God that looks down upon a people of which He has given such great gifts. They do not know how to use. And those believe that the birthday of their chosen Christ in this Christ Mass one day said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do," has a much deeper meaning when it shows by the numbers, those nerdy numbers, how much is expected of you. We are expected to be great because we are given greatness. Period. Brother Eli gave me a great diagram of which I'm not sure would even emulate properly the way that this technology cannot even turn the backwards words and letters right side when they're placed in front of you. This was the diagram that was given to me by Brother Eli in regards to the earth. He said, write the word earth and draw a circle. I love this. I love this parable. I love it. He said, write the word earth and draw a circle. Then around the circle, I want you to place the E right about 2 o'clock, A about 4, R at 6, T at 8. And then I want you to look around at that and see, based upon it being clockwise, how many words, which are concepts, which can be weapons. What did it spell? It spelled earth, he, here, heart. If you do not compute anything that has been said in the last hour, 1 minute and 25, 26, 27 seconds, dig this. He, in its heart, created an art form that is not meant to just be seen. And we must take our ears and hear the sound at the speed of life. How much this God loves you. He is singing a song in your temple. Do you hear it? Are you quiet enough to hear it? There is a room where people test themselves. It is called the anechoic chamber. They say it's the quietest room on earth. And they say that after a certain time, it gets so quiet, you can hear your heart beating, you can hear the blood coursing through your veins. And for some people, that's too much and it drives them crazy. There are challenges that people are taking upon this to go into this anechoic chamber, see how long they can go before they go insane. And I and Brother Eli agreed on one thing. Dare us to go. We might find paradise there because we are getting away from the noise and we get to hear the love that courses through us. That love is perfect. It is perfect. They say there's nothing perfect on this planet. I have to beg to differ. I have to. Because I don't see any blemish in that except what I do to it. If you were to give me the crown myself, I could not create that, what has been created. I would say that's too much. I would say in my own mind, the creator, if I was a creator, I would say, well, that's a waste of time. They're going to use all that. But how great the I am is in having that much grace to say that in this mainframe, which is the house of many mansions, therefore, that he make you that rich. We've done the other builds. I've shown you how much you're worth by your organs alone. But with one specific thing that connects them all, something that creates 100 gallons of itself a day: the blood. Aramaic tongue and Hebrew believes that when you look at DNA itself, the signature DNA itself, those chromosomes, they are so almost strikingly familiar to Hebraic text that we are writing DNA when you write the Tanakh. I know it was the blood, not just of a Jesus or whatever way you like to alliterate that name, but in your own. For these are proof that you are in that image, which is not something to be lauded for. It's something to be responsible for. I would love to hear the words of Brother Eli and how he'd like to build upon that.
Also, with that um, example, Brother Michael, you don't necessarily say circle. You tell them, please draw the image of the earth, which will create a circle or something that's oblong. So you write the word earth and then draw the image of the earth and then spell it going around the earth clockwise. Earlier, I wanted to go back because you were saying something about the mind. My sister and I were speaking earlier, and she was speaking Greek and Hebrew. And I discovered when you read the book of Genesis chapter 3, called the fall. And it's something that happened before the fall, but I'm going to just start off here on Genesis 3, verse 14. It says, so the Lord God said to the serpent, because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock. Now think about that word, curse. Okay. So going down to 17, it says that to Adam, he said, because you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat from. Cursed is the ground because of you. So you got cursed when it comes to the humans and cursive when it comes to the serpent. A lot of people don't know the Greek and the Hebrew of the word cursed. Now it's about to get a little tricky. According to the Greek and Hebrew, I'm going to paraphrase it because I even asked my sister if she had time to join us to go over the lessons in Greek and Hebrew, which will clarify a lot of this stuff, man. It's like amazing. The more you go into the details, like God is in the details, it's serious. Because the average person think of curse, like, oh, he cursed. But in Hebrew and Greek, curse means a mind state, being like a reprobate, like always negative, like going to work, just a negative person. You just always negative. So when you read Genesis about the curse, it says, cursed is the ground because through pain and toil, you will eat food from it for all the days of your life. So don't use the word curse. Use the word negative mind. Just a mean, nasty person when you're working. So it is not necessarily the work, It is the mind that God or the natural law will place inside of your consciousness. And that's why when you go to work, you just hear people just constantly negative, meaning that they are kicked out the garden, that they're actually the devil, because the devil was cursed, meaning that the mind, I wish I could find that verse or the definition of meaning, because my sister had this software. So we also went to Cain and Abel, and Cain had that same mind. So let's go to Genesis chapter 4. I'm going to go to verse 2. No, let me go to verse 3. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord, and Abel also brought an offering, fat portion from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord took with favor on Abel and his offering, but Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. Verse 6 says, Then the Lord said to Cain, Why are you angry? Question mark. Why is your face downcast? Another question. If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin crouches at the door. So when you go into the Greek and Hebrew, it goes right back to that mind. And also, my sister looked up the name in Greek and Hebrew, Cain and Abel, and they both have some very raunchy meanings. They were both cursed from the beginning. So Abel was not this good and happy person as portrayed. Part of Abel's name means vain. So going deeper or going to more of the original version, how it's supposed to be taught in the Hebrew or Greek or Aramaic, it is more clear what are the curses. So we like to put that in modern time. Modern time, most people are negative. They think negative. They watch negative movies. They play negative music. They are in the curse, kicked out of the garden. And they have to toil because that mind will create certain circumstances that a person might need to do what they will not or normally wouldn't do. Because I remember going to the club and a person who had that mind, nature or life put them in a situation that they have to really go through with it. For instance, when you walk in a club and you're mean mugging, then somebody might test you, and you might be with your boys and friends. So you literally was pushed by the unseen forces in a situation that might put you physically in jail, more bondage. So you was cursed. So it's not a curse that we think the curse. The curse is the mind and the perpetual thought of being a negative person. And again, I'm going to get the information because she gave me the words in Greek and in Hebrew. And brother, it makes things clearer. Another thing that we want to talk about is neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity, neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity defines as the ability of the nervous system to change its activity and respond to intrinsic and extrinsic stimuli or reorganizing a structure, function, or connection after injury, such as a stroke or traumatic brain injuries. So, if the curse of God was a mind, a perpetual mind, that, and again, brother was talking about the waters have memory. So, if I look at the percentage of the brain, how much is the brain is made of water? Let me see. Which come on. Is water. Oops, I didn't put a brain. How much of the brain? Excuse me. All right. All right. So 73%. Let me see. Hold on. The brain is 75% of water. So if something is 75% of water and neuroplasticity says that you, the intelligence, that's correct. So you have a purpose. The purpose is the vibration Brother Michael was talking about, because when you look at a virus will collide and uses nails to go into the cell to give it a new mind. It gives its intelligence to cause it to be a cancer cell or some other type of thing that is not in alignment with its original purpose. So you are cursed according to the architect when your mind is in a direction of not being in harmony or in peace with your environment. When you perpetuate over and over and over, listen to the music, watch war, all of it is creating a being which produces this frequency. And when you look at the electromagnetic energy from the heart, it exceeds your physical being. So you have all of this disturbance. And that's why when I listen to a new idea, I ask, who is the originator of this idea? Because God or the architect probably created this thing as a curse instead of something that is needed. So God told them one of the curses of Adam and Eve is toil. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plant of the field. By the sweat of your brow, you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. From dust you are, and to dust you will return. So, where do strokes come from? Worry and anger, all these things is from a mind. There is an interconnectedness because, as we know from Dr. Momoto from Japan, and Brother Michael spoke about, when water is around negativity, it have disformity in its image, in its being, in its presence. It's more of a spike like disformity. So when you, or a splatter, it doesn't look nice. So we have a story being told even from Satan in heaven, when he had this mind, this perpetual thought. He became it. He became his thoughts. As a man thinking in his heart, so is he or she. So if your heart is the art and the hearing, because hearing the same is vibration, all of this meaning that you are kicked out of the garden. You are part of another entity. You have been assimilated into Satan's world, which is something that is adverse to God's world. So when you have cancer cells in the body, these cells are an adversary to its originator, meaning the body. So when you out of your mind, you are adversary from the thing that originated your purpose. And that's why they say whistle while you work. All things you do, you must have a specific mind state. And that's why in TV they say programming. Because Satan's job is to make you into himself. And that's why if you look at women's nails, in the 80s, it was round. Now it is spiked like a dragon's nail. So whatever is in the unseen as perpetuated will eventually manifest itself. So those of us who are in the knowing, we do not have to say a word because your own presence will show itself. Brother Michael, go ahead, bro. Go ahead. Come on, build.
That is so good. That is so good. Oh, yeah, that's mind blowing. The nails. So Trent Reznor is the main songwriter, singer, even producer and engineer for the song for the band 9 Inch Nails. And there was an interview where he was asked what the brand's name meant. And his answer, and I'm paraphrasing, his answer is that it is a play on the crucifixion of Christ. Because it is believed in certain cultures that the nails that were hammered into the hands of Christ were 9 inches long. This is a musician that gives you music that is at these unruly decibel levels and have themes that come across as depressing, as self-deprecating, and glorify death. The very first album from 9 Inch Nails was called Broken. So to go to, and I'm kind of aging myself, to go to a record store and purchase a compact disc that said Broken on it with intent to listen to this brokenness and revere in how much it relates to you is the creation of that in you, that brokenness. By the way, that was one of the very few bands where their initial album was the highest selling album, Broken. To this day. It was made in 1994. To this day, highest selling album. Broken. The first music video from the Broken album is literally only 1 minute long. It shows, I can't even show it on here, but it shows, if you were to go and look up the name Pinion, Pinion, 9 Inch Nails Pinion, there is a 60-second video that is more like an intro to anything else. And it is showing the way waste goes in through the sewer system and to toilets. It's that's all it is. There is a riff that's only 2 seconds long, and it is repeated. And it goes down as a first person perspective down a canal that darkens, that winds and roads and almost like a highway, kind of like blood vessels. And at the bottom of it is a human being with a mask on, under the impression of taking in all of this gunk from the first person perspective and being drowned by it. This is one of their highest selling albums as a band of the original members. So when we talk about what we put in our temple, the music that we're placing in our temple, this orchestra, there is a subgenre called chamber music. We must be very careful of how we choose our chamber music in our temple. We must be very careful of the offerings that we place in our temple. We must be careful of our Holy of Holies to make sure that it is staying clean, because without it, there is no build. We do not simply want this build. We need it.
Brother, I just watched the video. It showed toilet seats. And it showed black going down the toilet seat. And then it showed the pipes, the fluid going down the toilet seat. And then it winds around. And then eventually in this man's mouth, bursting out while he is tied in all like a leather black. Wow. Like I said, that's why I was looking at the video, because we got it. We evidence based.
We are evidence based. Yes. The only reason why I could not play the video is due to copyright, but I wanted to give light to that video. But yes, this is what we're talking about. These are curses that are chosen. They're chosen by the people to place upon themselves. And they relate to this. There are people who believe they feel this way in their life, in their daily walking life, as if they are being filled and consumed and absorbed and drowned in junk. It is something that we can change, but the reprobate mind does not do so. This is something that is not just a want to change. It is a need. It must be made a need, or there will be no bill.
That video, brother. But just think about, from our perspective, we had party rap, conscious rap, gangster rap, trap music, and now we got drill music. what is specifically bragging about killing someone. So trap music was talking about selling drugs. Now the other generation became rappers who are on drugs, and then their children created drill music. So you're going to go down this path because we are living in a stream. Every picture that I was allowed to view, when you look at the earth from the distance, like pointing from those telescopes that was long, it's in a stream of energy. Every time they show one of the old Sputniks or one of the pictures from the satellite that was millions of miles away from the earth, it was a tiny glowing dot in a stream. Streaming. So that is the thing about life. Because one thing will lead to the other. And that's why when we look up the Hebrew or Greek name of Adam, Cain and Abel, they are raunchy names because all my life I thought Abel was like a good person. Abel was none but a vain fool because where he came from, those who went off, like the word sin, you missed the mark. So you will be given a mind that is always negative. They see everything as negative. There is nothing good when it comes to their consciousness. So if you're watching TV or being programmed or reading a negative book, you're creating neurons of negativity. And neurons are communicating with negative water molecules in your body because like attracts, right? So you have a organ transplant. There have to be clear communication between the body and that new transplant, otherwise be rejected. So if you are a negative person, even from being abused, like if you're a little child, that's in your mind. It's connected to the 75% of water that is in your brain. Next thing you know, it leading off to something of damage. I used to give this example. You had two 5-year-old girls. Both of the girls were molested by their uncle. One became a prostitute because she used that behavior from her uncle to excuse her behavior to become a prostitute. So by the time she was a teenager, she was practically dead because she was used up. And then you had another little girl who decided to live with her father and do better with herself, which we know as Oprah Winfrey. So the environment and the situation should not dictate how you may interpret the thing. That is your responsibility to show who and what you are. So when Satan or the dragon or the angel of light went against his Lord or the purpose or the stream, Abraham had to be tested. He had to go and commit murder against his son, which God didn't allow him to do, to prove his friendship to God. Because God is streaming this existence. So when you stream videos, all of the systems are in response to something that existed previously. We had to create automobiles in order to create freeways and streets. The automobile gave the ability for the airplane to roll fast enough to take launch from the earth. So one will lead to the other. So when you are in sin, when you miss the mark, you are just a virus or something that is using its intelligence against the original purpose of its existence, being off of the stream, distorting the vibration of the waters, your distortment. And that's why we have a dis-ease. That's why we are not at ease, because we are distorted. And when you watch back in the days when they changed the TV channel, it was this distortion in the image before it came to a new image. When the frequency changed, you saw a distortion or a spike in the stream. So all of this is connected when it comes to our existence. Are we willing to be in alignment with the purpose or the being, the architect, what the architect envisioned trillions of years ago? The architect didn't think about Elias in 2022, 23. The great architect was talking about its purpose, period. Because there is a balance when you look at the earth spins and you look at the other planet, how they rotate around the sun, sun. They are floating on something. We cannot see it, but we see the cycle proving that it is repeating itself. It is in alignment. So when you look at something that is out of alignment, like a shooting star, it dissolves itself because it's going against a force that is not physical for of some sorts. Because when you're going into the earth atmosphere, you can literally walk through it, you can penetrate it. So when we watch something going through the atmosphere, certain levels of atmosphere, we see it burn up. It's like, wait a minute. That means it is going against friction, like when you take a match and strike it against the box. It's going against the grain. Therefore, you must burn up. And that's why some people say chemotherapy is a burning. You are burning. I remember my sister, all her veins were black. It's a burning. So being in alignment, being obedient is not being nerdy or being a goody two shoes. We are just trying to be natural. That's all. Because the other things are not natural. So if the earth spins 1,003 miles an hour and it spins around a oven, meaning the sun, so when we picked the apple off the tree, the earth cooked it like you cook food in a pot. You stir it to keep the heat balanced. So one side wouldn't cook faster than the other side. So when you pull the apple off the tree, it's been cooked. Then you can eat it. And it's growing in its proper season. So when you eat an apple from a tree in a season, the solar system is connected to a galaxy. The galaxy is connected to the universe, and all of it's obedient because we can observe its motion. So when you are obedient to existence, you live. So when you flip the word live, it means you're evil because you're opposite of life. So all we're trying to do is reach harmony within existence itself. harmony from within, homeostasis, and harmony from the outer worlds. We exist because everything else exists. So, eating a raw diet and trying to eat the foods in this proper season, because the other day I walked outside and I saw mushrooms. Now, mushrooms, they were in the ground. Now think about this. Let's make sense with this. Remember being obedient, living in the stream. I've been walking on this land for about almost 2 years. I have to ask myself, what did the ground listen to grow these mushrooms? Because I saw other weeds grow. I didn't see mushrooms. So the earth is communicating with our sun or the moon. It's communicating with something that is not close or located to it. Streaming. I am in Alabama. Brother Michael's in North Carolina. The stream. So if we are not in harmony with ourselves, meaning being in peace on the inside, we will not be able to be like the animals, because the animals, they eat the things that are in season. That's why I saw a video when the great buffalo saw the storm or a hurricane or a volcano. Before it even happened, something told them to get out the way. Like some ducks, they know when to fly, when to leave that location before the scene. They are in agreement with the communication with existence because they don't have GPS systems physically. So look at our low example. Our GPS is in outer space. Again, mimicking the natural order of things. The earth get its commandments from the sun. We get our commandments from satellites in outer space, and we cannot see the stream. As above, so below, as on the outside, so within. So one thing would mimic the other. There is a constant story being told, like the fall of man, of eating an apple, and Apple computers are bidding fruit. So me specifically, I am just trying to learn how to be in alignment with the greatest forces that I would never see physically or even comprehend, because again, I am in a solar system. This solar system is in a stream of a galaxy. And that's why on Earth you can see a light in the center of the Milky Way galaxy. So all of this is streaming. And when we get bad weather or something happened, Brother Michael or myself video will have a distortion. So that is what life is about, eating and drinking things that will bypass or eliminate properly, even in the organs, that they can recognize the frequency of the substance you ate. Because again, a glucose molecule travels at a rate of 250 miles an hour. So it is streaming, because I saw somebody drive 250 miles an hour. It's a stream. You can hear it. They're streaming. So that's all we're trying to do, is to be in alignment with an existence that serve someone else's purpose. Like the cells in your body, they don't know, like my cells, they don't know there's Elias. They don't know nothing about me as this outer shell on this screen. But if they mess up, it's going to mess up my life. Think about that. If they decide to do whatever they want to do, get out of alignment with the system of the body, get out of the alignment or stop communicating properly because of disobedience, that will cause the disturbance. Like if you cut your skin, that is a disturbance. And they work like heaven to repair it. Get that? Not like hell, because we're not using these words. We're trying to use things of love and life and growth. And that's why Mother Teresa, she did not go to a stop the violence protest. She went to peace protests, because the more you support something consciously or unconsciously, it will give it its life. In the beginning was the word, and the word became flesh. So if your word in your consciousness in the Bible says is negativity, meaning that you're cursed if you're thinking negative thoughts, to keep it simple, you're connecting to a high frequency system, because the blood travels little over 2 times around the earth at 45 seconds. 45 seconds, 60,000 miles, and your neurons travel at a faster rate. So that's what so your vibration, the stream is not connected to the greater stream that when you watch the picture from the telescope in outer space, that stream in the earth, that's giving the earth its purpose. So it's all about being obedient to something that you did not originate. And you have a choice. You can be obedient because you gained the knowledge to be obedient, or you can be disobedient because you lack the knowledge of obedience. You forgot the knowledge. You forgot the knowledge. You forgot the knowledge. A baby. I have yet to see a baby give up on wanting to learn how to walk. You forgot the knowledge. The baby didn't give up on wanting to learn how to lift its head. You forgot the knowledge. The baby didn't give up on wanting to learn how to move its hands. The baby didn't give up on exploring its outer world. You forgot the knowledge. We get older. We give up on things, and we do not study, nor do we explore. Therefore, you are disobedient and you're not in alignment with existence itself, because existence is in the work or the business of creating. It always wants to create. If you have stagnant water, here comes some bacteria and some other stuff. You have gnats and mosquitoes. It's going to create. So when you come as a baby, you are designed to learn to create. And that is why when you write the word earth and then you draw the image of the earth and then you spell the word earth around its form, you produce the word heart. And in the word heart, you have the word art, ART. So you are artists. So when you create your art, you produce a frequency. And that's why they say a picture is as of 1,000 words, because you come at your vibration. And that's why we can look at the picture and we can come up with two different understanding, yet we looking at the same existence. So all of this is an interconnectedness, just being in alignment to the great architect. That's all we're trying to do. And to be out of alignment with the great architect, you are an adversary. You are Satan, Santa Claus, Satan. And when you know the story about Santa Claus, you have Krampus. Krampus is one that would take the bad children away, meaning the children that was not in alignment with their purpose. Being in alignment is an honorable thing. We don't like our TVs to not work well. We don't like our cell phones. We don't like our body parts. None of us like anything that is not in its purpose willingly. I remember growing up, they had a malfunctioning TV. Brother Michael will tell you how we corrected the TV is by slapping it. It got slapped physically. And when somebody's out of line, the first thing you want to do is smack them to put them back in alignment. It's just so much stuff, brother.
I remember taking aluminum foil and wrapping it around the copper wire of a wire hanger and creating an antenna off of a television that had a broken one. And it worked even better than what was originally manufactured. There are times where I have to speak for myself here. I wish I could do that to human beings, but I cannot. I wish I could manufacture something greater than something that has blood that can travel at 60,000 miles in 45 seconds, but I cannot do that. I wouldn't want to, because this is so much more than enough. It's a travesty not to endeavor being better. But alas, we are candles, we are light, and despite all of those things that we have talked about that are opposite of the bill, that are opposite of the stream, that are extreme versus our balance, we cannot complain. The candle cannot complain against the darkness and the harshness. It instead emits itself,
So,
then admits to itself
itself
that it is everything that it needed.
needed.
It is the light,
And we are.
and we are that light. We will not blow this light away from us, as that would be the complete opposite of the connection that we have with this candle and this light that dances upon it. Instead, we'll bring this in so that we can share this light in every handshake and hug and every embrace, so they too can feel one day that light transfer to them. And so we bring it in. And we show without a shadow of a doubt that we are not harmed. Excellent, excellent build. Many more to come, many blessings. May they magnify upon yourself in all those you love and even those that you do not, for all that we can speak is love, because we are made of nothing but it. Peace and blessings.
Peace and paradise and blessings.